Good evening, everyone. Happy Thursday to everybody. Welcome to another amazing ride on Urban Birds and Bees. My name is Kerry Neal. I'm your host and moderator for Urban Birds and Bees. And I am tired of having these conversations about people saying that there's no good men around, that this whole idea of there's not being a suitable partner for them, and wonder what's going on. They can't trust online dating. They can't trust going out to social events. Well, today we may have the answer for you, particularly here in the Black community. Tonight, we are talking about Black love and matchmaking. Is it for you? And we're joined by two amazing matchmakers who happen to be Black as well, Dr. Martina Wade-Hill and Kazi. Dr. Martina, Chris, say what's up to the people out there. Say what's up to the people.
What's up, people?
Hello, everyone.
Well, it's indeed is a pleasure to have you all join us this evening. So we're going to be having quite a discussion here. Now, you will be allowed to participate as well, but you can participate on one condition. You can participate if you take yourself off camera and participate. You can't be off camera and then try to give a comment. So that's how you can participate. And you have carte blanche to our matchmakers to ask them anything that you want to in the landscape of dating, statistics, what people want to know, your personal situation. This is what we call a virtual cookout. So we are a family here and we can talk about anything because we're going to keep it buck. We keep it, look, if we're not going to keep it honest, what's the point of even being here? That's how we're going to do it here, okay? So first of all, let me tell you a little bit about Urban Birds and Bees. For those of you who are here, we know we got folks on the East Coast. We got folks out here in Los Angeles, on the West Coast, in the Midwest, and the South. We want to welcome all of you and thank you for joining us. And all of you on Facebook Live, thank you for joining us. We hope to make this worth your while. It should be quite interesting. Now, we got a hard stop at 9:30 here on the West Coast. So we want to optimize our time. So Urban Birds and Bees is a podcast that provides an emotionally safe space to have honest, healthy, and provocative discussions. Tonight will be a provocative discussion, for example, right? About dating, relationships, sex, love, Black and pop culture, self-worth, and personal growth to help you, as we're going to do tonight. We're going to help you become the best partner in a committed relationship and to identify who would be best for you in a committed relationship. So that's what we do here. And the purpose of this podcast is to gain a better understanding of what matchmaking is and isn't, pros and cons, and how the Black community can and do benefit from matchmakers. Now there's some things I've been sort of learned about since kind of going down this journey. I had a conversation with Dr. Martina about some of these things with kind of birth our discussion tonight. Kazi been a friend of mine for a number of years, and so he obviously would be a no-brainer to be involved in the discussion. But I was having some conversations this past week with my my mentor, executive producer Lori Reed, who has worked for Dr. Phil, Oprah, and Iyanla Vanzant. And so we were talking about all the different dynamics associated with this, and we're going to dive right in. So without further ado, I'm going to tell you a little bit about our matchmakers, and then we're going to dive right into our discussion. Right. So I'm going to talk about Dr. Martina Wade-Hill, and she is a certified professional matchmaker and life coach. And that's not all she does. She's also an entertainer, and she's a former fitness instructor. Very interesting. She shares her testimony of how God saved her life through food addiction and restored her body through proper diet and exercise. Dr. Martina's weight loss, dramatic weight loss, I should say, she lost, can you believe it, over 200 pounds, has opened mainstream doors in the entertainment world, allowing her to host, act, produce, sing, songwrite, and dance. Dr. Martina works in Hollywood currently as a celebrity life coach, matchmaker, producer, and professional singer for movie soundtracks. Dr. Martina has labored in broadcasting for almost 30 years. She's worked behind the scenes for HBO, Cinemax, Discovery Channel, and CNN. She was a traffic producer even for Channel 7 in Detroit. Detroit, stand up, recognize, right? She was an assistant director for PBS, and she was a guest religion consultant on the Michael Basin show. Everybody give it up for Dr. Martina Wade-Hill. What's up with you, Dr. Martina? You feeling good tonight?
Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be on the show.
Well, it's an honor to have you here, and I can't wait till we sort of dive into some of these discussions. That's what's up, okay? Then we have my man, my guy, Chris Kazi. Now, Chris Kazi is an internationally recognized entrepreneur in the personal development industry as a brand strategist, working with public figures and celebrity clientele to achieve success in their career, business, life, and love. And speaking of love, he is an award-winning matchmaker and has an award matchmaking firm and a boutique creative agency for public figures called Kazi Creative Agency. After 10 years of working in the music business, Kazi transitioned from artist development to personal development and began working with creative and corporate professionals across the industry. So Kazi has certifications in life coaching, career planning, crisis management, and conflict resolutions. Lord Jesus, there's gonna be a lot of conflict going on tonight. So we're gonna need that skill, my guy. So Kazi has written for Essence, Madame Noir, HuffPost, and Men's Health. He's a sought after speaker. He travels the world nationally, lecturing year round. His intimate understanding of human relations and inspiring life story has made him a popular guest on various media outlets. He has been featured on VH1, CNN, CBS, The Oprah Winfrey Show. Kazi's work in life is the focus of a Bruce Willis and Queen Latifah award-winning documentary film, The Hip Hop Project. Everybody give it up for my guy, Chris Kazi. What's up with you, bro? What's going on with you?
Man, I'm happy to be here. Urban Birds and Bees.
Urban Birds and Bees coming at you.
Yes,
Bruh, look. Hey, look, you know, I mean, you guys may remember that movie that was out some time ago called The Hip Hop Project. It was about this guy right here, Chris Kazi, his amazing life story and where he is today. But, you know, you got to tell us, too, how did you get from being this rapper to being matchmaker? We'll get to that. We'll get to that in a second. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to dive in. We're going to get right into this. But again, we want to remind you guys to please keep yourself muted. If you want to ask a question, just use the lower right-hand function, the reaction button, and just raise your hand. We will get to you, okay? Very important. So ask any questions that you want. And again, without further ado, we're going to dive right in. But first of all, I just want to kind of start first. Well, no, Chris, let's go to you. We're just asking a question about you and making that transition from, you know, putting down the lyrics and busting the rhymes, bruh, to matchmaking.
Well, actually, the Hip Hop Project was not necessarily about me writing rhymes. It was we went through a long process to choose the name in the film.
Okay.
Hip hop was definitely a medium that was cathartic for me.
Okay.
And the film is basically about a program I started for young artists in New York City. And they got the opportunity to write, produce, and market their own hip hop album. And I brought in everyone on the, you know, from Jay-Z to Russell Simmons to teach them the creative and the corporate sides of the business. I did have a stint as an artist, and I realized that I didn't have mentorship. So I was just, you know, it was just something I was doing for young artists, and who knew it was going to turn out into what it turned out into. But, you know, what I realized is that as I was getting more information so that I could pour into the artists, I discovered Tony Robbins and Iyanla Vanzant and, you know, Les Brown. And I said, wow, people can make money at like pouring into people like this. And so then, you know, I think the personal development industry was always calling me.
Right.
You know, when you follow your curiosity, that's kind of God within you telling you to take this step and that step. And if you follow it, your purpose gets revealed to you. So, you know, music and hip hop was the medium, but the path was just to help people to be their best self.
That was awesome. So then you start connecting people, help them find love. Is that what happened? Happened?
But no, at the time, you know, we would say practice what you preach. So I'm telling these young artists to you know, look at their life. What things are happening in your life that you might want to write about. And at the same time, I was going through tumultuous 5-year breakup. And through the process, I went home. I'm originally from Nassau, Bahamas. I went home to my country. I grew up in foster care there, and I had to sit down with my social worker, and she was telling me that in order for me to have a successful relationship, I needed to reconnect with my mother. You know,
Oh,
and then my foster mom, she told me the same thing. And like some of the issues that I was having with my significant other was uh, was very similar to issues I was having with my mom, but I wasn't necessarily making the correlation until at the same time I was also having ulcers at the same time. So I ended up going to a holistic doctor, and she also said, "Who are you holding a grudge against?" And that was like the first time
mm,
I made a correlation between what's happening in your mental and emotional well-being and your physical health. I never had made that connection until that moment. And as I shared with her, she said, "Well, you have to go heal the relationship with your mom." So I'm like, all roads led to that conversation. And as I was, going deeper and doing the work, because the work is not just the conversation, but it's also just exploring how to communicate better, how to solve different conflicts. I just kept following my curiosity.
right.
It's led me to that. And so what I started doing was I started bringing people over to my house. I had a brownstone in Brooklyn, and started with a small group of people, and it just kept growing until I started doing venues, and it just kept evolving. And as it evolved, I just got deeper and deeper into the information and the knowledge. So that's how I got into to the relationship business.
Nice, nice. That's quite a journey, bro. So,
Yeah.
Dr. Martina, what about you? Now, first of all, you were a pastor, essentially like an apostle. Then you went from that,
Mhm.
and then you worked in media. Oh my God, you have quite the storied career. How did you become a matchmaker?
So I was the neighborhood auntie and the neighborhood pastor that fixed everybody up.
Uh,
Okay.
gotcha.
So oftentimes in the Black community, we typically don't go to matchmaking, and most of us don't know matchmaking exists. It's not something that we grow up and say, "Hey, I'm ready to get married. Let's go see a matchmaker." You don't hear that often in the Black community, if you hear it at all. So a lot of times people will go to their pastors. They'll go to the Medias and the aunts in the family that have that are very respected, have insight, and they'll bring their intended there, or or parents will come and try to connect you with so and so's grandkids or so and so's nieces and nephews and things like that. And so that's how in our community we consider matchmaking. So I started doing it just because I had a lot of singles in my church, and everybody was
Mm,
crying and praying they wanted husbands and wives. And so I started matchmaking immediately, and I
ah,
pastored for 22 years.
wow.
And and I got real good at it, and I was very intuitive about it. My mother, she's passed now, but she was that for our family. She just knew, and she could look at somebody and say, "That's your wife, that's your husband," that kind of thing. And so I had inherited that from my mother. And so it was just that thing that we knew how to do. And so even the assistant pastor that took over the church, before I ended my tenure there, I matched him and his wife. I matched them and did their wedding.
What? Interesting. Nice.
So it was something that I didn't even consider as anything particularly, special. I was just something that I did to resolve an issue. I had single people in the church, so let's get them married. And then people started bringing cousins and aunties and family, and next thing you know, people invite me to dinner, and I'm thinking I'm sitting down and getting a meal, and
Right.
there's an intended at the table. What you
Very
think about
interesting.
her? What you think about him? And so that happened. And then when I retired from pastoring and started life coaching full time and really started branding it as my retirement career, I just went into life coaching in entertainment. That was it. And then my first clients were people who wanted date coaching. So everybody that I had matched and got married, they started bringing me their family members and everybody, and they just thrusted me into date coaching. And
Mm,
then after that, it was just like, okay, this is real. This is matchmaking. And last year alone, I did 5 weddings, five people I matched, and they got married. And
Wow.
it was amazing to see that, and then to go through that experience. So it was something that just happened. It was something that I knew how to do instinctively, and it happened. So then I started doing it professionally, got my certification, started doing professionally, and it's been beautiful ever since.
Oh, that's a beautiful thing. And I want to remind our audience as well that we have over 30 years of matchmaking expertise coming at you. So you guys want to listen up, lots of insights. And again, feel free to ask questions you want to, but you got to be on camera. Okay, so the first question is online dating, matchmaking. What's the difference? I thought they were the same, but apparently not. So Chris, what's the difference between the two? You're muted. Muted.
And now, in some regards, they are similar.
Okay.
Like most businesses, if you add technology into it, you kind of move out the human experience. But that's the idea, that when you're on one of these platforms, they're doing the same thing that a matchmaker would do. They're taking the data that they have about you and specifications that you're looking for, and they try to match you with the people who have those specifications, which is not that far different than what a human being might do. But there is a human element that's not there. Some people, like my clients, are really, business professionals that may not want to be on a platform like that. They may not want, a co-worker to or a boss or somebody
Say, Dave,
run
you
into
on
some.
match, bro? What's up with you?
Yeah,
Right.
like, oh, swipe, trying to holler at you on the side. And then there's, I think it's changed, but I think when I first started, it was a stigma about being on, for certain a caliber of people say, I don't want to be on there, and then some people just don't got time. They don't got time to be sifting through. It's a numbers game, so you got to really understand that, and you got to sift through a lot. And if you don't have the time like that, then it's like, what, I'd rather just have someone. I'd rather just outsource that. Let someone else handle that. And that's kind of what the difference is. Matchmakers has more of a human approach, and then there's a privacy and a little bit more vetting of the candidates.
Yeah, yeah. And I assume Dr. Martin, you would agree with that as well, is correct?
Yes, but I also want to add too that human touch is so prolific. The way I matchmake is I bond with all my clients. And it's very important because for me, I need to grab hold to who you are as a person, not just the particulars on what you're looking for, because there's an essence about someone that you're not going to catch in stats or catch in the informational. It's an essence. And then, with that intuition, I may say on paper, you look like you should match with this person on paper, but your personality and the essence of who you are, I would say, no, I would never introduce that person and that person together. So developing that bond, that connection, really getting to know the nuances with your client helps you to better personality match.
Gotcha. Let's talk about real quick. I thought this was pretty interesting. Some stats they talked about in terms of online dating. Apparently 30% of all online daters are married. That's okay. And there's another stat that suggests that over 80% of people who are online, on their profile, there is at least one significant lie. Interesting. Is this a compelling case to use a matchmaker, Dr. Martina?
No, the most compelling lie you're going to get is probably age and their pictures.
Okay.
They're going. Those are the two main lies that you're going to get mostly on profiles. And as far as the marriage concern is, in that stat, they don't necessarily say who's separated or who's currently going through a divorce. And so a lot of times when people are transitioning out of long-term connections, they're hunting. They're coming to see what's going on. And, and then of course you got people who are infidels and they go and they look too. But, in that you can't say that whole thing for that marriage, that some of it is people transitioning out of connections.
Yeah. Chris, what about you? What's a compelling reason why a person should consider matchmaking versus being online?
I think the vetting process and
Aside from the privacy thing that I thought was a very good point, right?
that was going to be my next, but I think just like Dr. Martina said, I think it's the vetting process, and also the best matchmakers. We spend time trying to make you relationship ready, and at least, I mean, if you want to be successful, it's important to be relationship ready. So I think being able to work with someone that's really trying to get to know you, and um, and I think those two would be the most important things.
Okay, that's interesting. Let's talk about being relationship ready. So now both you guys being life coaches as well as matchmakers, and you guys have dealt with hundreds of clients, that you've dealt with in counsel. So what stands out, particularly, let's talk about our community. We said at the beginning of the show, from the onset, we said this is a cookout. So we're going to talk about this for a second. Why does it seem that Black men and women have such a difficult time connecting romantically? We'll start with you, Dr. Martin. What is your take on that?
So in my opinion, I think Black men struggle with vulnerability. And so that is always a wedge.
Define vulnerability for me. What is vulnerability?
When I say vulnerability, just opening up and showing who they really are and showing sides about them that are sensitive or even private. And even though those areas need to be earned and not so much, provided off top, it's very essential for a woman to connect to a man's vulnerability in order to have that feeling of safety, connection. And even in the essence, a lot of women feel like I can't really gauge him because they can't really gauge the sensitivity of a man. And so a lot of times our Black men don't want to be considered vulnerable because then they feel weak. And so it takes them a really long time to trust a woman. She could be an amazing, trustworthy person, but time, it takes time. Sometimes a man will go into a marriage not really being vulnerable, and it just takes time for Black men to unravel. So I would say that's the one thing for Black men in the areas of connecting. For Black women, it is the laundry list of wanting that gentleman to not be like the last. And a lot of times that trauma, and I'm not just saying just Black women, because women as total people bring trauma, but specifically, I've noticed that a lot of times that especially if a woman was in an environment where she didn't have a father. And so she's trying to come into a relationship. He has to be the daddy and the boyfriend and all of that. And so it's that trauma transferring into it. And then sometimes you find that women who grew up well, had mama and daddy and grandma and them, everybody in the family, but the husband factor or the male factor didn't have those things. And so then he's missing a lot in the emotionality that's causing him not to connect with her because she's emotionally stable and he isn't. And so that finding that balance makes it so difficult for two amazing people to connect because there's so much healing and development that needs to take place.
Bro, Chris, talk about that.
The healing and development, or
why Black men and women have trouble connecting. But yeah, we want to talk about that too, that dynamic there as well.
I don't know if we have trouble connecting. I feel like, I feel like we are connecting.
We are connected. Okay.
Yeah, I think we are. I find that like people in happy relationships don't. I mean, it's getting better now, but we're not shouting at the top of our lungs, yo, my wife is amazing, but we will complain when stuff is not good. I find like people are more expressive about their complaints than they are about how amazing their partner is. It's not commonplace to talk about how we have great relationships. And then also the idea that, Black men are dating other women, but the stats show that we're marrying black women. So, but that doesn't sell hot headlines. That doesn't, it's not the clickbait that we want. So, but do we have issues? Yeah, we definitely have issues. Some connected to uh, post-traumatic slavery. A lot of
Epigenetics.
that doesn't get talked about. Some of the things that come up, just even in our community, light skin, dark skin, elders versus the youth. Um, posting. I mean, I don't know how deep we're trying to go, but
Oh,
the
we're trying to go, we're kind of trying to
society.
deep, bro. So,
Yeah.
so are you trying to say because a dude stands up a woman, that has to do with slavery? What are you trying to say?
No, I mean, to the question was why we have challenges connecting. Now, if we're just saying, hey, when we have challenges, what are, and there are a long list of challenges, we could go into each one. There might be different reasons, but
Yeah.
that specific one, there's various reasons why a guy might stand a woman up. Some, funny enough, I was just talking about this last night in class. One of them is it's easier to date, and this ties back to Dr. Martina's point. Uh, it's easier to date when you get to a level where you really have to be vulnerable and open up. That is not a place where a lot of men are comfortable or know how to talk about certain things. So it's easier to go ghost or sabotage the relationship. It's better to it's more comfortable to stay in a certain level of relationship. And then if you're not feeling somebody, is we don't know how to do that either. So since we don't know how to have that closure conversation, we just don't have it, and we go ghost. So that's that. But there are other reasons why certain relationships don't go to the next level. So we can
So,
get.
let's talk about that for a second. So let's talk about men not connecting. And then you talked about how, well, with your service, that you make sure people are relationship ready. I would assume that probably most folks that I'm paying you X amount of dollars, I'm relationship ready. So how do you have that conversation with a client when they're paying, what I would assume would be a generous fee for your services? And we'll talk about that in a second, with how much the range of charges are, but whatever that fee is, they're paying you to hopefully help them find the love of their life. But you find from the conversation with them, particularly even on the man side, that, bro, you got some issues to deal with. So would it be men or women? How do you approach that with a potential client?
Yeah, I mean, when I first started, yeah, it was, trying to figure out the business itself. I learned through a mentor who was full-time matchmaker. Well, let me back up a little bit. When I first started, I was just doing events. And so during the events, there women, guys, they would come to me and say, hey, introduce me to such and such.
Right.
Because when I introduce you, because of who I was in the whole event, that holds some weight, and there's a trust factor that gets transferred during that conversation. Um, and then I met a guy out of DC, and he was doing it. I'll say, you know what? Maybe because I was trying to figure out what is the problem I'm trying to solve. And so once I got into it, it was just trying to make sure I could, make that number. But then fast forward ahead, when certain relationships didn't go to that next level, most of the time when people come in, that's the first thing they ask you: how many marriages do you have? So then, all right, well, if that's the criteria, why aren't some of the people making it to marriage? So then I had to now go a little bit deeper and try to figure that out. So as I was figuring that out, I realized the issues that I saw early on were the same issues that end up not making it to, success. So then I said, well, I have to add another service in where I focus specifically on getting them ready. But not everybody wants that. To your point, it's like, hey, I'm spending the money. I just want to meet people. So I said, all right, what I started doing was that in my contract, I make it a super clear that what the service that I'm offering is that I'm basically introducing you to a certain amount of people, and success looks like this. And I align with them on that first, so that if in the event, which generally happens if you don't do the work early on, your relationship is not going to be successful. And so that's how I started adding that piece in there.
Yeah, so Dr. Martinez, a similar question, but let's talk about, Chris has talked about ghosting. I'm sure you probably had many women clients that may have had an issue with ghosting. I'm just going to assume that's the case. I'm going to go on a limb and assume that's been some of the concerns of some of your clients. Would that be correct?
Men and women, yes.
Men and women, okay. So, and so how do you talk about the whole idea of ghosting versus make sure that they're relationship ready and things? Talk about that process with some of your clients.
That's such a touchy subject because it happens. I mean, even in a matchmaking setting, which you would think, idealistically, typically the client would think, this is not online dating. I'm meeting a person. So the person you're going to send to me is not going to ghost me. They're going to be serious. I don't care how much money people pay. Your character will take you as far as you will go. So there have been people, whether you are the paying client or the candidate that's being introduced, they will literally, some of them will still ghost the person. And that's a character flaw that unfortunately you have to deal with that. And it can be very, disruptive and upsetting for either party that's experienced it. But this is when you and I had the discussion offline, I talked about the difference between product and services. Because a lot of times people walk into a matchmaking setting and think that, well, I want 5'10", this size, I want her like this, and all these different things, right? And they think that I'm supposed to, set my fingers and whoa, then this person shows up. But there's a lot of vetting, there's a lot of searching involved in preparing to get this person. And so sometimes someone will present themselves in a false way. So you think that they're ready. And some people, I've said this for years, some demons take a while to unwrap. So even though we vet, it'll be right there at the core part where you just stop vetting, and then it'll just pop up on you and they'll cut up on the date and everything. And you be like, I didn't see that. You background checked. It happens because people are presenting their best selves no matter what. So it's one of those things, and you just have to allow people to express their disappointment, coach them through it, do the best you can to vet even better. But sometimes that does happen. People who pay ghost, people who have free services ghost. If you are a ghoster, you're going to ghost. If you're going to waste your own money, that's what you're going to do. If you're going to waste somebody else's money, unfortunately, we need to do a seminar on how not to ghost, because people ghost for different reasons. Right. Some people get nervous and they're like, they want to do it and they're driving down the highway. I have talked to clients on the way there to make sure they show up, to make sure, or call the restaurant. Let me know. I'm on the phone.
Wow.
To make sure, because I literally have to take them off the ledge, because sometimes they get so scared they boogie down the street somewhere. And so it's so many reasons a person could ghost, or they might get a better offer on the way to the date. Stuff happens all the time with people. So I would say character, fear, those things play a role in ghosting.
One of our audience members says, so if some Black men are afraid of vulnerability, how do they know they're ready for a relationship? So that's sort of interesting. Chris, talk about that for a second. So this thing of vulnerability is something else. Now, you and I as guys, we kind of know that a lot of times we're going to be kind of careful about our vulnerability because, we may have had experience in the past putting it out there only to be weaponized against us. We don't even want to go there, but I'll let you be an expert talk about that. What are your thoughts on that question, bro?
I think when a guy knows, he knows,
address for First Convenience Bank when chats through.
So we're going to ask everyone, if you're not on the panel, to please mute yourself. So if you're not muted, please mute yourself, because that would be quite disturbing to this flow that we got jumping off right here. Don't kill the vibe on there. Please mute yourself. Please mute yourself. Anyway, Chris, you were saying, sir.
I think someone who's on a journey to become a better person, trying to build a legacy. I find men, even myself, I got married when I was 36. I'm 46 now. And I tried when I think I got engaged, the prior relationship, when I was 27. But I come from, even in the Bahamas, even though I came up in foster care, I always saw marriage there. Um, but I think when I got to a place in my life when I started thinking about my legacy, and I also I'm just a deep person, and I just wanted more out of life. And I just got to a place where I said, well, this is what I want. But there was a series of events that happened prior to that. And then I was in a group of men having a certain type of conversation. So to answer the question, I think every guy is different, but for the most part, he's in a place where he himself say, I want a family. I want this idea. And and then he's in a quest to do personal development, to discover certain things about himself so that he could be better in a relationship. But that generally happens after you've sometimes had a bad relationship, or if you had mentorship along the way and you are someone who's humble to someone else. A lot of men are not humble to other men. They're not in a mentorship or a group of men who are about personal development type of space, And I find if you don't have those type of relationships happening, it's a little bit harder to discover that, hey, I how to grow and be relationship ready.
Got it. Interesting. So, Dr. Martina, I'm going to assume more women use matchmaking services than men. That's just an assumption. Is that your understanding, particularly in the Black?
Nope.
Really?
Nope, that's not my understanding. Now, Black women, yes, but across the diversity of races,
right?
There's just as many men as there is women. But Black men are less likely to, that I've noticed, more Black women. But as far as like all races that I've worked with, it's been kind of equal with with women and men, because there are certain men who are just looking for a certain type of woman, and they're busy, they're professionals, they want to separate their professional life from their personal life. And so they want, you present what I'm looking for. And so, as the matchmaker, you go and you do that. And it's likewise you find for women as well. But I find that sometimes in the Black community, a lot of times the Black men are hesitant about having matchmakers as a whole, just simply because it's that whole, I don't need one, I'm good, I need women, so you deal with the ego. And so then they keep meeting women that they, can't bring home, or women that they can't marry, but they meet women, right? And so that's not what the service is about, is long-term connections. And so, if you get past the ego, then I would say more Black men need to be more engaged in the matchmaking services.
Okay, let's talk about, here's what I want to talk. Well, first of all, I would just ask you really quickly. So is matchmaking only for wealthy people? I mean, is it affordable? I mean, give us a sense. I come to you, I say, Dr. Martina, I need somebody in my life. I need to find love in my life. What's your fee structure look like? So give me a sense of what that is in terms of, generally speaking, for the field, not necessarily yours, but just
sure.
Yeah.
So what I would say is I stay away from actual numbers, because a lot of times big packages have to deal with matchability. Is the person easy to match? And a lot of times you'll find that matchmakers and companies will structure a plan based upon a person's matchability. And then there's some companies that structure a plan based upon...
I know what you mean by matchability, but what do you mean by matchability?
So some people are difficult to match because maybe they have very extreme preferences. And so it's requiring
Give us an example what may be extreme, because what may be extreme to one person may not be extreme to the other person.
So let's say a gentleman says, I want a woman who's a size 3, who's a Catholic, and her background has to be extensively from Yale.
Yeah.
And so that could be one, of it. Okay, I have to find a size 3 from Yale, and so that could be something extreme. There's no range, right? And so when someone doesn't flex on their preferences and they're like, I don't care how long I gotta wait, find me that person.
So matchability has nothing to do with them as an individual in terms of their personal attribute. It's their criteria.
All of that. Okay. Sometimes it's hard to find people because they're socially awkward, and they have a hard time connecting. They don't know how to date, or they don't take instruction very well, or they're hard to critique. So you try to tell them, hey, it's probably not good to eat with your mouth open. That last date didn't work out, so stuff like that. I mean, I'm just being literal because these things have really happened. And so, or you may find someone who doesn't dress well. So then you have to hire a consultant to help them dress us and get their image together. I specifically remember a VP of a company. He was the sweetest person you ever want to meet in the world. But because his clothing was not on par, women got turned off because they felt like he came to the date not putting forth effort. And so I had to have that, come to Jesus conversation. Mm-hmm. Listen, your outfit, let's work on it. So I had that, and that can be very uncomfortable depending on how the person feels. But that's why I always say build a relationship with your matchmaker so that you can have uncomfortable conversations with them and they won't get offended.
Right.
And so I had to talk to him and say, listen, this is what feedback is with your last couple dates. What's going on here? And so that's when he started to let me know this has been a problem his entire life, even in a corporate structure. He's so awkward, and it hurt his self-confidence and all that. I just got him an image consultant. And honey, not only did it increase his money, and he was doing well anyway, but he ended up finding him somebody he really wanted. So it was just changing his brand, changing how he walked. It just put a little pep in the step, upped his confidence, and that next date went way better. But you see, you'll find that sometimes you have to hire out specialists to help them in the areas, because as much as we want to be everything for our clients, we have multiple clients. So we sometimes have to provide a team, and that could be a part of how that package could be more expensive than it will be for someone else.
Okay, no, that makes sense.
Something.
So Chris, let's talk about that for a second, right? She was talking about a man probably who needs to bring up his image. How important, and I think women need to hear this if they haven't heard it before, but guy to guy, we're guys, right? How important is a woman's appearance to a man that factors in his sense of if she is possible worthy of exploration for a relationship? How important is that?
What's
on a scale of 1 to if 10 being super important, 1 being not important at all? What would you put that on a scale of 1 to 10?
Every guy's different, but I'm gonna say 11. Every guy's different. But I do think some guys will want to date a 10, but would marry a 7.
Right.
If there's other attributes, that are there,
Yeah.
Sometimes, well, and these are, what I'm saying right now is just pulled from many conversation with a lot of different men. Sometimes, someone might be so beautiful their whole life that they never invested in their internal self because they got so much praise off of their beauty, and that's where they put their focus. And then you realize it's like, man, she's gorgeous, good time, but not forever. Then you might meet someone who might not be a 10, and it's just like, wow, she's just receptive, which is a big word for a lot of men, receptivity. Great helpmate, has her own thing, emotionally stable. So you look at different things, but for the most part, the first thing any guy I've ever worked with, and you say, hey, I have someone I think would be a good match for you. First thing they say,
what she look like? And here's the truth as well, ladies. You need to hear this. it's not that we're superficial. We're going to be moved by what we see. Oh, we'll get to your personality and things like that. So that's important. Like, what would you say are some of the traits you think men look for? We know we want her to be attractive, right?
Yeah.
What would you say are some of the traits, just maybe the top three? What are the top three things that you would say, generally speaking, men look for in a woman?
I would say definitely receptivity.
Receptivity.
And what that means, basically, some men don't, when you're
Ladies,
dating,
listen up. Ladies, listen up. Listen to this, ladies. Go ahead, Chris.
when you're dating, that kind of jousting back and forth, all that's cool. But when you talk about forever,
Ever.
like, man, nobody want to deal with that for their whole life,
Right.
And so, I know for many women, sometimes they pride themselves on having their own perspective, which is great, having their own opinion or being opinionated. That's great for, I'm going to challenge him, or there's a book that highlights that men want bitches, and, whatever her state of mind, and makes her think that she is this combative nature in the society. I've been seeing what's out there on the landscape with the podcasts and what the stuff I see online. I feel like it's just so combative, and it's just saying, it's putting us against each other. And so I find like a lot of men complain and say, hey man, I love a woman that's receptive. She has her own opinion, but she's also receptive and can entertain his perspective as well, So that's one. Another one would be thoughtfulness. Thoughtfulness. That she's
example
really,
of thoughtfulness.
Thoughtfulness meaning like you really listening to me. Like, let's say you say something, man. I always, my wife one time, I always had said, I almost want to go to Niagara Falls, just in passing, and then, or things I might have want to worked on, and it's just like a passing conversation, and then she surprises you or shows up and provides something that you wasn't even thinking of, but she was so thoughtful about what it was that you were saying or what you were aspiring to. I felt like, a lot of men don't feel heard, a lot of men don't feel heard, because even the landscape of dating is all about, her sharing everything about what she wants and how she likes it. And, and guys, we want to always impress and please women and don't always know how to, which is why some guys even come to matchmaking. They kind of want to be in the power position and want to be, someone who's there, not say to just serve him, because it is a two-way street, but that is an element of, hey, I'm open, able, and willing to be to serve,
Okay.
and yeah. So those would be two, I would say.
So Dr. Martina, let's stay on that same subject, right? What men want from your clients, what you're saying. So let's talk about size.
Size of
like dress size, for instance, right?
Oh, okay.
Just to be clear.
Yeah. So Dr. Martina, so in terms of size, what have you heard from your clients over the years? And everyone listening on Facebook Live, here on Zoom, this is 30 plus years of matchmaking experience. So these are people who have born their soul, sharing to them what they want, okay? In the Black community. Dr. Martina, go.
Okay, so you just opened up a can of worms.
Oh, we're all about the can of worms of urban birds and bees. This is how we do it here. That's what this is all about.
Size, as far as dress size, it depends on your region. Okay.
Talk about that.
So if I'm matching down south, I can get my chubby girls some men. Okay, because they want a woman that can cook. They want somebody to hold on to. Okay, they're all right, as long as you're active. I want a partner. Okay, down south, I'm trying to tell you, I can get my thicker ladies connected. Okay, even my gents, I can get them on the East Coast. Not so much New York, but close to like Midwest. So like the colder states like Midwest area, Indiana, Ohio, Illinois, I can get my heavier dudes connected because women looking for the snuggle up teddy bear. Okay.
Teddy bear,
So
right?
those are regional. You come out hot somewhere like West Coast and yeah, your outfit need to be single digit.
Interesting.
Yes, because it's catered as health, right? So they want a healthy person who's fit and that lifestyle. So if you are a thicker built woman in the West Coast area, like California, Nevada, and all that, you're gonna have to. It makes the matchmaker work harder because it's harder to find someone who doesn't mind someone like that. So for my Black women,
let's get into some specifics. We say thicker West Coast. So what is reasonably okay in terms of thickness on the West Coast? Juxtapose
Kim Kardashian all day long. They'll say, I'll take curvy Kim Kardashian. You go down south and say curvy. We talking about plus size. You say curvy on the West Coast, you talking Kim Kardashian.
Yeah.
Okay. They're fine with that. So curvy has different meanings. And West Coast don't know nothing about no teddy bear. They be like, what is that? So they don't know anything about that. They don't even know about the community at all. So it's a lot of pressure to be a certain size on the West Coast, especially in the Black community. Now there's pockets like Long Beach and where you found people who not from California and they migrated here, we call them implants. And so some people, I don't mind, but it's hard, you got to dig and find them. And then they have to match all the other preferences that people have. And then too, age plays a factor.
Okay.
Too. So you find that sometimes people over 50 are more lenient at times about someone who has extra weight because you're older. Okay. But not, again, still regional, because again, West Coast, there's still a very active lifestyle that, there's still people 56-year-olds surfing. Okay. So it's still a different lifestyle. Yeah. So you have to match lifestyle. It makes a big deal. And I tell people regions make a big deal when you're looking for love. So a lot of times people move for work and they'll move somewhere and be lonely, making good money, lonely because there's no one in that region that fits them. And so region makes a big difference when it comes to size and dateability.
Yeah. That's very interesting. So again, if audience members, if you want to ask a question, where they just use your reaction, but you got to come on camera. Chris, let's talk about. So we're talking about this preference. So we talked about size and things like that in terms of what men may want. Let's talk about, Chris, your clients, your female clients, what they want from men. Tell me what you feel would be the top 2 or 3 immediate deal breakers. Immediate. If this is this, if that is this, and if this, what would that has been from your Black female clients over the years? If not that you've been keeping track, but qualitatively speaking, what are those things?
Like they're deal breakers. Like
if this is it,
and then the relationship. Before I say that, I just wanted to add to what Dr. Martina was just saying. Okay. When people are spending their money, they're coming with also, now I can like dream, organically, it's just like, hey, I got to know you. We built a friendship and like, oh, wow, you're pretty cool. You end up, you can organically fall into somebody that, because you have a rapport with them. But if I don't know you and I'm just coming, all right, listen, I want these specific things, so I just want to add that in, that people do come with what their ideal is when they come and they're spending their money.
Yeah. That being said,
That being said, the deal breakers, I think most people want to be don't want someone they can trust. So if they do
Yes.
things to break the trust, that's definitely a deal breaker. Um, and there's a whole bullet list underneath that. So that would be one. So being having another family could be, or saying that you're this, but then I see you doing this when your words and actions is not lining up. And then one, I don't know if we were on camera or off camera. Dr. Martina spoke about, which is like a lot of women want to someone who can articulate themselves, like emotionally available, but also can articulate what's happening inside of them. It's a connection. It's like, all right, if we did not really connect, like you hit everything on the paper, you're making money, you're this, that, and the third, but it's like we're together, but I don't feel with you, And some of that is because if you don't have that inner connection to yourself and you can't articulate certain things, it could make someone feel like a disconnect.
Okay.
Disconnect, yeah.
So okay, so those are things that probably you probably may not recognize immediately. I want to re-engage that question in terms of on paper. What are those one or two things?
You gotta be working. You gotta have a job.
Gotta have a job.
I gotta have a job, and probably it's either height or race. Some women's like.
So we're talking about black people. We're talking about black people. Black people.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, I would say then height.
Height.
Yeah.
So and they say you're from your experience in terms of height, we just kind of want to be clear what that is. So what is a reasonable minimum height that you would say is doable, generally speaking?
For women?
Yeah,
that women want?
Yeah.
I think someone just slightly like their height or higher, I don't know. It's just something about chemistry that feels differently when you have to like stoop down to kiss the person. And now some women are, they're open, but some women are like, nah, I'm not gonna be able to do it. It's an old school.
The chat blowing up. They saying 5'10", 6 feet. Look, I knew this 5'1" woman says she wanted a 6'5" guy.
Okay.
You go figure. It's interesting. Okay, so we've been talking about this whole thing about preferences, and Dr. Martin, you talked a little bit about the West Coast. There's a whole different ball game versus other parts of the country, right? So you got to both agree with that. So there's also been this whole thing of people sort of wondering, particularly here in Los Angeles, right? We know we got people watching all over the country, but particularly here in Los Angeles. What are your thoughts when someone says, do I have to move to find love? What are your thoughts about that? You got to think about it.
For me, or are you talking?
Also, Dr. Martina. Dr. Martina.
Oh, I thought you were talking to Chris.
Oh, no, I'm talking
I deal with that a lot. I ask the person, are they willing to, especially if, early on, if it's going to be an issue finding their person based upon where they're living and their matchability. And so then I open it up, are you willing to move for your person? And you would be surprised how many women are open to it. Now, gentlemen wise, not as much, but what I can offer is both sides. If both sides are willing to migrate, that makes it, more comfortable if both sides. So if I had to say I introduce a woman from California to someone in Georgia, and let's say, the guy may, be open to moving to California based upon the situations. But if both sides are open, that's fine. Okay. But women are more likely to move. But that is, I mean, that's topics I discuss all the time because, again, some people move for, work reasons and realize it doesn't fit for love. So.
Okay. So what are your thoughts about, we're talking about this whole thing about height and thing that Chris just talked about, right? So Dr. Martina, coming back to you. So is there any hope for men who are short, so to speak, in terms of finding love?
Okay. I was
From
really
your
hoping you would
experience
see that. Now, typically women across the board want a man that's tall. And, there's a small percentage. It's not even 15% of the population of men who are 6 feet. It's a small percentage. And when I tell clients that, they'll say, well, I've always dated. I'm like, okay, so all of a sudden you find these men that don't hit any of the statistics, And so I laugh. But I try to flex them as, will you date somebody at least your height? Will you date somebody at least 2 feet higher? And some people are, unflexible in that, and that does hurt their experience and cause them to wait a little longer to find their person sometimes. Yeah. And other times it doesn't. I would find that really tall women are more open to shorter men because they understand that they're tall. And so they would prefer, obviously, someone that was tall like them, but they understand because they're tall, it's hard to find someone, a lot of people that are their height. So I find that really tall women flex more in that particular area. But height is huge. Height and age is huge when it comes to, dating. Some people will throw the whole date away based off of height.
So you mean to tell me the guy is, okay, he's well-educated, great job, great income, 6 figures, loves God, strong in the community, handsome guy, whatever else, all the typical bag of stuff is not really apparent with this particular client, but he's 5'7", 5'8".
Yeah, some people.
Women will see that. Some of your clients have seen that and keep turning the page. Is that what I mean?
It depends how big of a priority that is to them. Sometimes they will take a tall man with half the stuff they want versus someone who has everything they want and could be a little shorter than them. It just depends on image and, because then they'll be like, what will my family say? Will my friends laugh at me? What if we walk and holding hands, people staring at us? And so that insecurity becomes an issue. What if he hold me? What if we dancing? What if it's not anatomically measured, and it's just, so you hear all of those things that come into height.
So you mean to tell me, over all the different things that exist, that height is the ultimate trump card?
Height and age. I said height and age. They go neck and neck.
What do you mean age? When you say age, talk about that.
The older a person is, sometimes that's a deal breaker. Sometimes it's a deal breaker. Younger, not as much, because you have to think about region as well. Right. But older, sometimes that's a deal breaker.
Okay. We had someone in the comment says, height is a big deal. We said what we said.
Yeah.
Dang. Oh, golly. Okay, so Chris, I'm gonna go to you, bro.
Yeah.
Particularly in the Black community, we have a prolific number of Black successful women.
Yeah.
Blacks, I mean, when we say, let's sort of define success: well-educated, probably works a corporate job, making well over 6 figures, probably has own home, luxury car, things like that, well placed. So how we define success in society, they are easily a representative of what that is, right? Do you find a lot of your clients, or even some things that you perceive, that a woman who possesses all these things that are impressive, they are perceived to be too masculine? And if that is the case, talk about men and their reaction to that, if that's the case.
Yeah. Good. I'm not sure. Initially, I would say there's a masculine vibe. I would say that it's when once you're in the relationship, or maybe when you're dating, there
Mhm.
is some attributes that could be considered more masculine, because in the work world, you have it is the culture itself is very masculine and male dominated. A lot of these industries that women are ascending in, and you in order to survive, you kind of put on some of those attributes in order to navigate those spaces. And when you come home, uh it's hard to detach from those. You kind of that you it becomes a part of who you are. And uh and so, yeah, I think a lot of guys are challenged by that. Maybe, I mean, it's just, there's so much nuances to it. So I'm just trying to keep it basic. But yeah, I think some of those traits can become challenging in a relationship, and and those traits I would connect more to a uh, masculine energy. Let's say that masculine energy. And so, a guy would have to be fully secure within himself. The woman would also have to be aware that, hey, this way of being is not you, the person, but there's these parts of you that doesn't necessarily work in relationship. And so she might not be aware. And so if you bring the awareness in a way that it's not like an attack, and that she's all, it's like both parties have to be like, all right, well, when you do that, let's not do that right here, and
Right.
she's like, oh, I'm doing that, and he's kind of like, well, I don't like when you do this, and they are on the same page. Is a lot different than just saying that you are this way and I hate that you do this. It's that. But yeah, I think a lot of guys are also challenged by when that energy shows up. A lot of our sense of value comes in what we can teach, what we provide. And if you're smarter than me, if you make more money than me, what value do I hold? And he may not articulate it that way, but that's what's usually coming up. And a lot of us don't have a lot of, we don't put a lot of value just on our presence.
Mhm.
For a lot of women, they do value our presence. So
Mhm.
just kind of try, how do you communicate to someone, hey, I may have all these things, but you have that, and that's most important to me. And and yeah, so that's one of the things that I've seen a lot be challenging, when a guy is trying to date a woman who's, she's a boss. When Bay is a boss, she's a boss. And we love it sometimes, just on the dating, or to get with a woman like that, but it could become challenging for a long-term relationship.
We have one guy who said that men, we need to feel needed and wanted. But Chris, I'm gonna stay with you, and I'm gonna come to you, Dr. Martina. There's a question
Mhm.
that I want you to answer. But Chris, I want to come back to you. So it has been said, when we as Black men make it and we're successful, then we go to the white woman,
Okay.
or we date outside, or date and marry outside our race, right?
Yeah.
I want you to speak to that in terms of your clientele, particularly to the degree that it may be perceived that, a lot of our Black women are perceived or stereotyped to be combative, defensive, non-cooperative, or whatever that may be.
Yeah.
To the degree that maybe you have had some Black male clients
Yeah.
who have said, no, let me just get a white woman, because I know at least I'm not going to be going through hell with her, whatever else.
Um,
Uh, so
uh,
talk about that for a second.
yeah, I wouldn't say they say let me get a white woman. I would say they're open. They're open.
Oh, they're open.
They're
Okay.
open. Yeah, I'm open to whoever, whatever. Uh, I would say that there's so much nuance with us, which is what makes us so fly as Black people. Like some we was doing. Uh, I don't know if it was me and you, but I was having a conversation about the neck turns and the little things that we do that's just specific to our culture that we can read. That it's so nuanced. So I always want to say that sometimes it's not a black or white answer. It's gray. But to your point, Black, when you talk about who's the most sought after, um on the dating scene, a lot of times it's the black men, you know?
From
And so
all races. From all
of all
races.
races, yeah, of all races. I mean, of course, yeah, I would say, yeah, we're often the most attractive, partly because of our, physical prowess, culture, what we bring to culture, in general. Um, and so, it's exotic in some regards, other races just wanting to explore that. And I can even talk about here on the dating scene in Los Angeles, other races a little bit more forward, and they would advance more than black women. There's so much stigma about it, like being proactive in dating and being assertive as women and being seen as a groupie and this and that. Other races, they don't always think that way. And then there's the taboo-ness of it for men just to explore. Like, wow, I could explore that. I could explore an Asian or what, um, it's not the same, because a lot of times, just to keep it all the way straight, talking no chaser, other races see like, man, I can't compete with what black men probably have to offer a black woman. You know what I'm saying? So I don't always feel as confident, but they have other ways that they connect. Anyway, we're not going to black, but as far as that, I would just say that black men just have a lot are sought after in a lot of different ways, particularly one that you're speaking of, that they are advancing in their career, they're advancing uh, in these kind of high profile positions, and then they get into environments where they see a lot of other races, and they have access to a lot of opportunities that they've never had before. So I think it's an inquisitive kind of vibe. Sometimes that leads into a relationship, but again, the stats show that we are marrying black women more than we're marrying other races.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and it's probably a different dynamic here. I want to read some of this chat is kind of blowing up here.
okay.
This
We
one
hit a
gentleman
nerve.
said, he said, I am 6'2" and semi good looking, and I find women don't know what they want. Too many want us to take care of them in every way. I don't want a dependent, I want a partner. Interesting. And we have a question here.
Wow.
You put a picture of himself in the chat, nice. Okay, so Dr. Martina, question to you. Do you find more older women go for older men, 5 years older, or do older men go for older women, 5 years?
At 5 years is sketchy. I think that at a certain point in age, that 5 years doesn't make a difference unless you're in your late 50s. So if you're in the late 50s, I've actually had women, let's say you're a 58-year-old woman. If I found them a 62-year-old man that was fit, wonderful, blah, 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 they'd be like, no, he's 62. So there's like this pushback, whether it doesn't matter if they're a black woman, just that whole 60 sometimes can be a jarring for a person. So, that I would say for the older right there, that could be a little jarring, even if they're 2 years shy of that decade change. 40s a little bit, but definitely I noticed between the transitions between the 50s and 60s. I noticed that a lot. And then the older we get, when you're matching seniors, that gets even more interesting when you're matching seniors. But I would say that typically you will find that people are okay, like men are usually okay with dating a little younger, as long as it depends on if he doesn't want any more kids, and they've already had their children, there's an understanding, great. But if he doesn't mind having more kids, he's specifically looking for someone that is younger. Women, not as much younger for long-term relationships, because there's a maturation that takes place, and they want a mature-minded man that may fit their mindset, right? So it becomes with lifestyle, where you are in your life. You want to be a parent, you don't want to be a parent. Some men say, I don't want to date a grandmother, even though maybe the person might have had children early in life. And then, that perpetuated. So it just depends on the person. But I did want to comment.
Sure.
I made some notes from Chris because I was like literally chomping at the bit. Right. When you're talking about that question was about people transitioning to the white community when they find success. And I find that, even though we've said it multiple times, that sometimes we find that in the Black community, we're finding that not just with men, but women are doing it too. Women are saying, okay, I have all this education, but my man's over here, he fine, but he not, he okay with working here. He okay with working at the gas station. Not saying it's bad working at a gas station, but if she's got a lot of degrees and have a corporate job, she's going to want someone that's, a really successful entrepreneur or on her level or higher. So I'm not going to match a CEO of a major corporation that happens to be Black with someone that may not even be close to what she's looking for. And and it's really hard because a lot of the Black women, some of them really flex. I mean, they really flex when it comes to income and comes with education. Some of them really flex and some of them don't, depending on lifestyle. And some of them say, you know what, if I can't get what I'm looking for in my region, in a Black man, I'm open to other races. And, studies show that 45% of Black women are open to dating outside of their race, just based on whatever their qualifications are. And so it's not just the Black men anymore, it's the Black women. And then some regions are very diverse culturally, extremely. And some regions are very segregated. And so, you may find like on the Midwest, you wouldn't even date in the Asian community if you were Black, but then you might come to LA and then the Asian man be like, hey, what's up, girl? It's a whole nother energy depending on where you live. Mm-hmm. And so that's there too. But I also want to make a point about high profile women who are in the workforce, especially when you find them more in their masculine energy while they're working. I work with women all the time about modulating their softness. A heterosexual man want a soft woman, but they don't want a weak woman. And there's a difference between being soft and being weak.
Make that distinction, please.
Come on.
Okay.
You're preaching good.
So a weak woman is someone that can't walk in her independence, and she can't do for herself. She can't stand as a partner. She's a dependent. She's someone who, complains, bored, and resolve. She's someone that literally has no life. She's waiting for her lifestyle to be created for her, things of that nature. Someone who lets insignificant things stand in the way of the growth of the relationship. I mean, the list goes on where areas of weakness. However, a soft woman is a woman who is okay leaning back and allowing, women hate this, a man to lead sometimes. I'm sorry, I done threw equity out the window. I threw it out the window, y'all all mad. All y'all
That's mad. That's funny.
But in every relationship, that level of leadership, and there's some areas where a woman and a man would say, that's your thing, baby. You got it. And then she's able to step into that role. And there's areas where, baby, you got to be protected, and let him step in those roles, okay? But I believe that every relationship functions a little bit differently based on the needs, wants, and lifestyle of that connection. But a man wants a soft woman. A heterosexual man wants a soft woman. Someone that keeps themselves up, smell good, look good. Yes, baby, I make your plate. Then I'm gonna make my own plate. I cook, I can do something soft. Yeah. Modulate your softness. Yeah. And in some regions, that is not taught. West Coast, it's thrown out the window a lot. Midwest, Southern, women will make your plate and hand it to you. Baby, you want some more chicken? Okay.
Right.
Right. Let me get your slippers for you. I love you. Stuff like that. So that it just depends on the region. And so you'll find that some women really reject softness completely. Don't want a man to open up the door. They feel marginalized in that very moment. Don't pick up the check. I can pick up the check. They feel very marginalized in small ways of acts of kindness in which the man is showing that he cares. Yeah. And so they eliminate and they actually mutilate the man's opportunity to even show that he cares. And then they walk to me at the end of the date saying, I don't know if he likes me. So I don't know, it's hard to read. And so you're not allowing him to be naturally who he is. And then, and then sometimes you find that because the scales aren't balanced, he's expecting you to be his mom instead of being his woman. And so he wants you to do all these things for him. Okay. And so you have a lot of these nuances. And I think that you have to come with self-awareness of where you want to be in the relationship. And if you want a man to be a protector, if you want him to be those things, then you're going to have to modulate your softness. Yeah. I understand we can be reminded because sometimes we're still got work on the brain when we get home. We still in work mode. We go, and he be like, okay, you not at work. I'm sorry. I am not your employee. I'm sorry, baby. And have those moments. But, you're going to have to know how to take that hat off and to be a partner and not treat your person like an employee.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Okay, we got like about 5 minutes left, but we want to shift the conversation. Chris, I'm gonna come to you. We're going to talk about money. Okay. So we're going to talk about money here real quick. So you may have all seen that went viral on Elanya Van Zant was being interviewed by Ebony K. Williams. And they're talking about Black women and relationships and so forth. And so, she asked her, Elanya asked her straight up and said, would you date a bus driver? And she paused and she looked down because she didn't give an immediate answer. She kind of paused about a good 3 or 4 seconds, which is a lifetime in media, right? And she said, well, if he owns the bus. Oh my God. She got a backlash like nobody's business. But it's sort of interesting. So you guys, in terms of what you do in the whole matchmaking business, yeah. Chris, how important is the amount of money that a man or woman makes? But let's talk about men, because that seems to be more of a pressure on the men's side in terms of his income. Yeah. Please indulge us. Answer the question.
How much money should a man make?
But particularly just desirable for a woman seeking a man. What should his income be? What does that look like for him? Or how important is that?
No, I think it's important. I think you want to. It is a romantic partnership. A lot of times we don't look at the partnership part of it. It is in some regards a business. And it's because it's love. You don't want to embrace that side of it. But when you really think about, 50% of marriages in America fail due to money. And if before you get into some sort of business or partnership, you would look at, hey, what does successful partnerships have? And that is something that you should address. It's like, all right, we're going to yoke together. We're going to partner. What do you have? What do I have? When Barack got with Michelle, she was the breadwinner initially, and when I met my wife, there are a lot of ups and downs in relationships. So money is not the marker. I think it's really like, what are you doing with your life? And you want to be with someone that is progressive, someone that has a plan. And I think for men, it's just easier to date, period, too, when you're just making your own money and you could sustain yourself. Now,
but do women have an expectation that he has to make at least $200,000 a year or whatever? I mean, let's say he could be a hardworking bus driver making like 80, 90 G's a year. what are you finding with your clients in that regard? I mean, yeah, talk about that.
You know, yeah, I think people have a list of what they think. Some of those ideas are not their own. Some of those ideas are not their own. They inherit these ideas and they say money, but that's not really what they're talking about. I think what I find when you peel back the layers, and because I'm a peel back the layer guy, it's not just whatever society says, because even with that, there's layers to it. So it's not, I know I'm not giving you like a straight answer because it's not black or white, but I think behind it is just, what are you doing with your life? Are you making, are you somebody I can depend on? If I'm down, you're up, and vice versa, you know? And that's what I teach. You know, they do come in, they say, hey, they have like I said, people come with their dream, not ideal, you know, and this ideal, some of it is mine, some of it is running from trauma that I've seen in my mother and father's relationship, or my lack of having a father. Some of it is to impress my friends. Some of these ideas are not my own, but what do you want for your life? That's where I focus on, and how to get you that, you know? But yeah, money should always be at the conversation, because we live in America. It's a business, it's a romantic partnership, and that is my approach to it. Even when you come to matchmaking, we're pretty much headhunters, bringing somebody into your company to be in your company, right? And so we're finding all of the candidates, and you're going to sit down and you're going to interview these candidates before you bring somebody into your company. So I take that approach. When even, you know, one of the coaching programs I have is called the merger. Before you get married, you're merging not only money, but you're merging mindset, lifestyle. You're merging families. This is a family merger. So I do take a business approach to romance. The romance is a heavy part. I'm a Cancer. I live in my heart. I say I'm a helpful romantic, but I'm also a businessman, you know, and I take that approach when I'm looking at too. So hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, that does. As a matter of fact, I want to get some of these in the chat, bro. It's kind of blowing up. One
Okay.
guy says, 2 of my millionaire friends got married and money was still an issue. Another person who says it's important. There are so many things to measure: gainful employment, earning potential, potential upward mobility. This is not black or white. And then there's been some other things said here too. Let's see.
Someone said about pricing. Let's say three to 20,000, 3,000 to 20,000, depending on what the type of services that you require. Like Dr. Martinez said earlier, everyone is a little bit different, but there are packages that can run
payment plans, or you expect to pay all in full?
Oh no, it could be payment plans, because I'm not sure, Dr. Martina, what your time range is, but I'll do 6 months minimum, because you need time with a person, you know. And so if you're not really ready to commit, you know, I have group coaching programs where I'm leading people around relationship readiness. That might be a good start, because you could use those skills. We go over dating, we go over past relationships, we go over self-assessment, personality. We go through a lot of different parts in that specific program. But if you want something that requires, like, hey, hook me up, let me get me right, help me present myself right, help me how to date, help me meet people, coach me through the process, you know, depends on all of the things that you're asking for, is a different price point. But I would say it runs the range, you could say from 30 to 20,000, excuse me, from $3,000 to $20,000.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I'm just kind of curious, someone here in the audience, y'all want to jump on camera really quick before we get out of here and give your thoughts on how this whole experience has been for you, learning about matchmaking, and maybe getting get the cheat sheet, what might help you. You might want to jump on camera real quick. And
Can I say one thing real quick?
yeah, go ahead.
With the bus thing, you triggered a memory, Chris, because I literally had a client, VP of a major company, but because her backstory was working class, so she worked her way up, her family worked their way up. So she was open to dating a bus driver as long as he loved his job. Sometimes passion is more important than money. People want somebody who's really passionate about what they do. And so I found a very passionate city bus driver for her. She loved him. he didn't care for her because he felt she wasn't exotic enough.
Ah,
And sometimes that's, money is not the thing.
interesting. Arnita Champion, what's up with you? What's up with you, Arnita? Come on up here, and we want to hear what you got to say. Take yourself off mute.
I did.
Yeah. So yeah, this has been a very interesting. You've been quite active in the chat and the whole bit. So I'm curious. Go ahead and talk to it for a second.
First and foremost, Carrie, I want to give you your flowers. I want to give you your props for bringing not just people on that want to give their opinions. And because as a single person, we're looking for that expertise or that next step to take, because, and I'm gonna just throw it out there, I'm fine with throwing out it. I'm fine. I'll be 59 in June, and
59, no,
still
say
single.
they so 59, never been that fine. Never been that fine. You go, Arnita. You go, Arnita. What's up?
And looking at still single, and you think, what the hell is wrong? You've reached out, and then you pull back, and then you open a gate, and then you build up the wall of Jericho because of just you think there's got to be a different way. There's got to be a different way. You find that you don't even know how to date anymore, and then it's like, well, what is dating? So this type of interaction gives you a different perspective, because it gives you the answers as to, well, what's out there, without you even knowing what's out there, because the years that they put in, the 30 years that they put in, the trial and error. I always say, I don't want to learn from my mistakes. I want to learn from someone else's mistakes.
Right.
So then I won't have to go through it. And I think that's what the personal component of matchmaking does. But I've never tried matchmaking and online dating. I just look and go, okay, I'm done.
No, that's awesome stuff. Well, look,
Are
you're
you
too
here in
amazing.
LA?
Woman.
I'm sorry.
Are you here in LA?
Yes, I'm here in LA.
Yeah, LA is a hard place to date, just on your own. Everything is spread out, and work life. So matchmaking could be helpful, or the online dating. I mean, and they're similar. So it sounds like both are uncharted waters for you.
Yeah, it's been that way. It's been dry for about 10 years.
Okay.
So that's when you look. When Carrie said people, you have matchmakers, and I was like, let me see what type of witchcraft is no. No, but I thought, wow, it's just like, it brings back, it's like matchmaking. Dang, I never thought of that, because it's like it's old fashioned, it's like, I'm gonna hook you up with this person, and your mom does it or your dad does it, but you never think that that's a profession. You think, well, dang.
No, I think you need to I think you need to give them a try and see what that's about. I want to see if I can get a guy to jump on here real quick and give us final thoughts from our audience. And the men on here want to jump on. And
Joseph was on earlier, and he gave some good comments in the chat. Joseph, I don't know if you're still out there, brother. You want to jump
Joseph,
on?
what's up with you, bro? You want to jump on here and get some thoughts? Yeah, he may be a little bit tied up.
Okay, no worries.
All right, okay, wait. So with that being said, so we want to thank everybody for joining us this evening. But before we go, real quick question to Dr. Martina. So how important is it for women to have money to men? So men seeking a woman, are there any, are men saying, oh, she's got to make at least this kind of money? What has been your experience? Doesn't matter as long as she's fine, or it's like, well, she needs to be attractive, and she needs to be a real income producer? What are your thoughts on that?
So it depends on the male and what he's looking for. Some men, it doesn't matter if they're multimillionaires. They're like, she need to have her own money. So, they want to have, it depends on the man. And some men, they want their money and they're like, she need to have hers. But then there are some men who are the provider types who really don't care how much she makes, as long as she likes what she does, and that she is able to maintain her style of living. So if she can stay within her budget, no matter what her budget is, and she's able to take care of herself, then sometimes they don't even care. It just depends. It just depends. I think a lot of men aren't looking to save a person because they don't want to feel mishandled, at all. But then like I said, I've matched billionaires before, billionaires. And some of them, they don't care. They want her to assimilate to his lifestyle and to his family's legacy. So I would say the richer the man, the more qualifications, because sometimes it comes with, if it's inherited money, if it's old money, family, tradition is so important that she has to be willing to assimilate in religion and lifestyle, all that. And sometimes when a woman has too many accolades, it's hard for her to assimilate. So sometimes they'll want a woman with less accolades so that she can assimilate to his lifestyle and to his family traditions. Other times you find, very, very wealthy men who want a very educated woman. So when they talk to investors and other corporate people and international people, and they're at parties, that she can have communication, and that she looks like a suitable partner, because he's looking for a queen to reign with him. Okay, and so it just depends on the man. It depends. Some men just want, I want a woman to travel with me, and I want her to take care of the kids or whatever, and I'm not looking for that. I want her to keep the home. And then other men are like, no, I want somebody that's Harvard, Yale, PhD, whatever. And she needs to be able to communicate appropriately and be able to handle herself appropriately when I'm with my business professionals.
Gotcha. Okay, so Kimberly, if you want to come on camera, I see with your hand raised. You can ask a question, but you must go on camera. Okay, there you go. So
okay, sorry, it's late and I came on, so forgive the look. But I was curious. I might be different from some of the other participants, but I have a matchmaker. I hired one maybe midway through last year. Was it Talkify? That you see online, and I'm a lawyer. A couple of the other lawyers in my firms have tried it too, so we've all been kind of comparing notes, and none of us have really been happy with how we're being matched. And I think I talked to my matchmaker, and she was just like, when you sign up with the service, I guess my bigger issue was, to me, I didn't see a whole lot of personality, or these guys didn't look like they could really pull on their own if they tried, quite frankly. And so I guess I'm curious from the two of you, how do you handle I'm sorry, I came on late again. So how do you guys find the matches for your clients? And what do you do? How do you adjust when the matches aren't exactly going well?
interesting. All right. Thank you for that question, Kimberly. So, Dr. Martina, you want to take that first?
So there's a variety of ways. I often scout by foot. I go places, especially if they're local. I go where that particular type of person, that person may be looking for, where they are. Like, for example, if she was my client and wanted a Black man, I would go where Black men are, and things of that nature. Whereas I'm going to a specific event over the weekend that has the types of people that my other clients are looking for. And so I'm going to introduce myself and to network and things of that nature. And then also, you have databases and things of that nature. And so it's going on. I mean, you have to go and find the person. And sometimes it takes a while, and sometimes you find somebody right off. You have them on the tip of your head. I know who I'm going to match you with right now. And then you put it together. So, the vetting and searching, scouting process, Sometimes it could take a minute, and sometimes it's very quick, depending on the matchability of that person. In regards to personality of the dates, that's a part of vetting. And I stress, not everyone matches the same. Chris got his own style, I got my own style. So every matchmaker has their own style. And sometimes you may find a matchmaker that you're not clicking with. And it's okay to say, I'm not clicking with you. So you want to make sure that when you're meeting with your matchmaker, that you talk about things before you sign the contract. What if I don't like my matchmaker, or what if I'm not clicking with you? What can we do to remedy that? Because sometimes that matchmaker just can't connect with you enough to find your person. And I always say bond with your matchmaker, because that makes the whole vetting process, finding your person process, so much easier than just reading off a list and saying, this is what my person wants.
Okay, very interesting. Chris, same question. So what would you do if you kind of ran into all that?
Well, I co-sign everything Dr. Martina says. And yeah, sometimes it just takes a while. And yeah, I don't have much to share other than that. I mean, she hit all of the points. Yeah.
So you concur with what she said in general. So
yeah. And I have a circle of other matchmakers, and we sometimes give each other referrals or say, hey, I'm challenged with this. And I don't know, I know you just came on, but Dr. Martina mentioned earlier, sometimes it might be region, based on where we are. I'm assuming you live in LA, but LA is just a different place, and so, just be patient with the process. And sometimes you do have to, it's like church. You try this church and it's like, it's not really clicking for you. You go to another church, you just love that community more. So you may need to try another service and just see that. But I would just ride this out. Just continue to be patient with your matchmaker. And if you get to a point where you might need to transition out, just say, hey, I invested in myself, take all of the value that you got from them, and then try another service, and you might find the right fit on the next one. You take everything you learn from here and move it over to the next one. But just be patient with the process.
Yeah, and obviously if that matchmaker is not working out for you, we got two matchmakers here that I'm sure will be more than happy that you can pivot to them. And speaking of that, Dr. Martina, how can people get a hold of you, particularly if they're interested in your coaching, your matchmaking services, they want to run some stuff by you? How can people connect with you? Talk to us.
You can go on Linktree/Martina Wade-Hill. I'll put it in the chat as well. Also, you can add me on Instagram at Life Coach Martina. And then you got my website right here, lifecoachmartina.com. And so those are 3 different ways you can access me. But if you go on my Linktree, not only will you be able to, get more information about my services, but also you'll be able to sign up if you want matchmaking services. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Martina. You've been phenomenal this evening and so forth. So we thank you for all that you've done. And Chris Kazi, Rolle, how can get a hold of you as we get ready to chat about? So, bruh.
Yes.
Look, I'm telling you, they need to talk. They need to talk to you and Dr. Martina. So what's up? So how can they get a hold of you?
I'm Chris Kazi Rolle on everything. I'm on all the social media channels, or you can go to chriskazirolle.com.
Okay, awesome stuff. Well, Chris, thank you, bro. Once again, you're always amazing, bro. And we want to thank everyone for joining us this evening for Urban Birds and Bees. And we got final thoughts here. People are not perfect. People, the whole dating scene, we hear a thing from being in LA is difficult to date and wherever else, and people have preferences and things like that. And love is a beautiful thing. But what's also a beautiful thing is being the right person. I would argue that instead of having a laundry list of things that you are looking for in a mate, and I'm not trying to say you shouldn't have standards, that's not what I'm saying. I would challenge all of us to be what we want. Let's just say that you have an ideal person that you want. Okay, let's say life for women, there's a certain man, a certain height, a certain income, and things like that, certain look, whatever else. And let's say I have this magical wand, boom, and he appears right in front of me. So everything that you want, he appears. Okay, I mean, he appears right before you, everything that you want. But here's the question: does he want you? Be what you want, be the right person. I want to thank everyone for joining us this evening. I want to thank, as always, executive producer extraordinary Lori Reed for our consultation behind the scenes. I want to thank Raymond Gibbs, who is my producer, puts everything on Spotify. And again, I want to thank you for joining us this evening. And until next time, we're out of here. Have a good night, everybody.